Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Tomb Kings led by ARKHAN the Black and Norska, who's going to be led by Throg the Troll King. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So guys, we're going to be playing a very aggressive Tomb King strategy. In total, we do have three groups of the Skeleton Horsemen Archers, which I actually really think are kind of a hidden gem in this matchup. So number one, they have 140 range, so they can outrange all of the Norscan skirmishers. You can see the Marauder Hunters right here do have 70 range, and I think that the Javelins have like 90 range. Then Marauder Horse Masters, I think are around the same, in the same ballpark, maybe a little bit over 100 or under. I can't quite remember, but nonetheless, you can pretty much outrange all of the Norscan troops with the Skeleton Horse Archers. And yeah, honestly, you just pick on Berserkers, you pick on some of these Marauder Hunters in the secondary line. If they have Trolls who only have 40 armor, they're good targets. They can even pressure Throg, so really getting some good utility out of these bad boys. We do have three in total. On top of that, we have two groups of the Nehekar Horsemen. These guys are basically just there to protect the Skeleton Horsemen Archers, and if there's no Hounds or anything chasing them, we can simply use these bad boys to charge like low tier infantry. So Berserkers who have low armor, Marauders who have low armor, probably not going to be super optimal to charge them against the champions, for example, because their AP is a little bit low, but nonetheless, it's probably still worth it there. So two groups of the Nehekar Horsemen. On top of that, we have a little bit of hot Sirtha Ek action over here. We have two groups of Skeleton Chariots. So these are the melee variants, or they're the ones that are going to be a little bit more impactful in melee. We're just going to be trying to run amok amongst the Norscan ranks. There are some decent counters here. He does have Norscan Trolls who have pretty good mass. Throg, as well as the Fimir, all have enough mass to really pin down and punish the chariots. So I definitely have to be very careful of that. From a mainline force, it's going to be a couple Tomb Guard, the Kepler Guard here in the middle, which are just always solid, regenerating, just great damage output. And they're going to be protecting the big Bone Daddy. So we got the Bone Giant here with his giant desert bow, or bow of the desert, whatever it's called. He's basically just there to take down big Norscan monsters. So Fimir warriors with great weapons, which are very common in this matchup. Throg, I mean, you can even go after the Bale Fiend, but I think, yeah, he's actually a large target. So we're going to be taking some pot shots, and hopefully it goes well. Couple groups of Skeleton Warriors on the flanks, just to give me some numbers. We got the King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion in the back, and ARKHAN the Black here with Spirit Leech, Soul Blight, and all of his good items. So yeah, guys, that's it for my army. For my opponent, a relatively wide force, definitely not a bad idea. He's got Marauder Champions in the front line, very solid stuff. They just beat the brakes off most of these Tomb King's infantry. He also has Marauder Berserkers, one group of those. He's got a couple groups of Marauder Hunters in the secondary line to take out constructs. If they can close the distance and actually get their throwing axes on my Bone Giant, that could be very devastating. So I have to be very careful. Trolls and Fimir Warriors in the back, a couple groups of Spears on the flank. He's got Big Daddy Throg here, which is definitely not a bad choice. As far as his spells, what does he have? He actually has Enfeebling Foe and Oaken's Mind Razor, so I'm getting a little bit wild. And yes, he does have one more group of Berserkers. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the action. And I truly mean it this time. The action does start very, very quickly. So you can see the chariots. Basically, I'm just planning a huge blitzkrieg. So in the front, the chariots are going to be sweeping into these two frontal groups. The horsemen are going to be charging into the front here. So the first group of chariots just sweeping through these Norskins. And it's going to be doing some heavy damage as I just plow into the front line. Throg, it does catch that unfortunate chariot there and just kicks him. And yeah, he's able to just club those things. But we're also going to be charging here. So the Berserkers just getting hit by these Nehekar horsemen. Berserkers have very, very poor defensive stats. They're going to be taking a lot of damage. And I think the other group is coming in as well. So just trying to pressure my opponent as much as I can. Certainly very micro-intensive, but I was feeling feeling pretty fresh today, so hopefully I'll be able to handle the micro. The Skeleton Chariots getting in there, continuing to run amok, just pushing them through my opponent's ranks. The Skeleton Horsemen Archers tearing these Marauder Hunters to pieces, just generating massive value. And I did pull back these Chariots for a second charge, and these are the champs, so they're a little bit tankier, but the Chariots nonetheless doing a very, very good job just plowing through these guys. And you can see the damage is really starting to take hold, and I'm not really taking too much on the return here. Over here, I did get chased by Throg, which was unfortunate, so I decided to just run away and try and lure him away from the battle. The Bone Giant continuing to shoot its las cannon here into the Fimir with great weapons, and I did land some carrying right there to kind of slow my opponent's army. Regardless, the Kepler Guard will be engaging with Marauder Champions. I think Kepler Guard do win that engagement, and I do seem to get the charge, not that it really matters for Tomb Kings. ARKHAN the Black lurking somewhere nearby, cackling and being evil as he does. Yeah, you can see he's right here. So there's a bit of a pocket here, like an opening for my opponent. So anytime you see that, just use ARKHAN the Black with his skeleton summon. I just summon those bad boys, and then we're in pretty good shape. So using the Nehekar Horsemen just to clean up the scraps, look for troops around there. I think I was like trying to move past them, but it ended up being a charge anyways. But yeah, just using them to clean up the scraps. The Skeleton Archers able to take out Marauder Hunters, definitely generating some great value for me. ARKHAN the Black, just using him very defensively, trying to stay away from Throg and any hard-hitting units, but right now I will be scooting forward and dropping a fat Soul Blight right here. So definitely a very solid Soul Blight. Going to be lowering the armor of everyone in here, but my opponent does respond using the Fight or Die, which is going to give melee attack and leadership, so definitely very back and forth. But for the most part, Skeleton Horsemen are relatively, free to do whatever they want. They're picking off Hunters, they're shooting in at Berserkers and all these lightly armored troops. They've certainly been some of the MVPs this game, as have the Chariots. Not the most kills, but they certainly did some good HP damage. So on the far side, the Nehekar Horsemen plus a group of Skeleton Warriors were able to take out those spears that were flanking. The center pocket looking a little bit dicey for my opponent. He does have a lot of beat up troops, and the Bone Giant is just sitting there shooting with impunity. My front line of the Kepler Guard are actually holding really well, although my opponent did use the Opens Mind Razor here, but Kepler Guard have really, really good stats. Like I said, in countless casts, they're kind of like the Stearnsman of the Tomb Kings. So they're sitting there shooting. The Chariots are going to be slamming in as well, providing some support here, getting into those champions, trying to burn them down. My opponent responding in kind by sending over his Familiar with Great Weapons. A little bit scary, but now I'm pulling my auxiliary forces, the Tomb Guard and the Skeleton Warriors I had sitting back. I'm just pushing forward to basically plug any gaps in my defenses. So balance of power is relatively even, but I would say it's starting to tilt in my favor a little bit. My opponent's forces are being worn down. The Familiar Balefiend with the Lore of Shadows, I did get, I think, 1 or 2 Spirit Leeches on him, and I certainly will be sending ARKHAN the Black to deal with him in just a moment. So my opponent did try and push through Throg to go after the Bone Giant waddling away very slowly with his 21 speed while he's frostbitten, so his base is 32. But that's what the King to catch a Scorpion Legion are for. Yes, I mean, Throg could push through them, but he's going to be impeded heavily because they have poison, they have anti-large, they're going to poke and just stick on him, and it's definitely very annoying. On that same note, I believe I do use my Ushopti summon here in a moment, and there's the Ushopti summon. Look at that memory, just sharp 30-year-old right there. But the Ushopti summon is going to be coming down right there, going after the Marauder champions. I was having a little bit of trouble with armor here in the front line. They were just kind of working down my troops, so I figured this Ushopti summon would help. And they're just going to get in there and start cleaving some of these Norskins, just decapitating them. Definitely doing a pretty good job there. And yeah, definitely good stuff to collapse this formation. As far as the rest of the battlefield goes, my opponent does have some rallying forces. He has some Marauder Hunters here. Yeah, it looks like it's just Marauder Hunters across the board. Some Familiar Warriors and Trolls have come back from routing. But I still do have some ammunition with the Bone Giant, at least 5 or 6 shots, so I could probably pick those guys off on their return. The Familiar Balefiend with the Lore of Shadows is going to be running from ARKHAN the Black, so I'll be chasing him off the battlefield, making sure he stays away. And still just kind of trolling about with the Skeleton Horsemen, maximizing their ammunition. They've gotten a fair amount of kills, 29, 33, and yeah, like 26 it looks like. And you can also use them as like, if there's like retreating Marauder Hunters or things like that. Yes, their combat stats are horrible in melee, but if something's broken, it doesn't really matter. You might as well chase it off the battlefield. So just kind of circling about, I did put them in melee mode now. They're just going to be riding into these hunters who are shaken and just so beat up. And, you know, they only have 20 melee defense themselves. So the hordes of Nehekar here swarming down to these Marauder Hunters. Although, yeah, I don't know. Is ARKHAN the Black, like, yeah, isn't he like a different area? Is he part of Nehekar? I don't know. I need to read some lore books. But that's going to be it. So well played to my opponent. I definitely, that was a bit experimental for me. I've been using more constructs and kind of going that direction to beat the, attempt to beat Norska. But I really think the Skeleton Horsemen are just MVPs. They're so incredibly solid. They can pick apart a lot of the, elements like Hunters and Javelin Throwers and Berserkers and things like that. They just give you a lot of pressure on the battlefield. The Chariots were good as well. 43 and 15 kills might not be representative, but they still did a ton of HP damage. They distracted Throg for quite some time and were just absolutely solid. Tomb Guard was quite happy with their performance. They just kind of pulled in once things were butted up. And ARKHAN the Black is just such a good lord. I mean, he's by far, I think, the best lord on the Tomb Kings roster. Having his, Lore of Death is already very competitive, but on top of that, the Staff of Nagash is very good, as well as the Tomb Blade of ARKHAN, just insanity. Getting 150 skeletons 5 times over the course of the battle is just so good and tasty. So yeah, ARKHAN the Black, definitely recommend it if you're trying to, improve your Tomb King play and get on that next level. So we also got the Bone Giant. Bone Giant was solid. Always a fun unit to use, and yeah. For my opponent's army, I did like it. I like the Marauder Hunters in the front line. I think the Marauder Champions in the front line. The Marauder Hunters with the throwing axes, I don't know. I see that they're better against constructs once they get in range, but I feel like 3 of them might be a little bit overkill. Maybe just like get like 1 or 2 and maybe even switch to the Javelins just to get the better range. And then just use your Familiar with Great Weapons for your anti-large. Like 1 or 2 groups of Familiar will easily deal with constructs. You don't need too much more than that, especially if you have Throg. So I also think a couple groups of Hounds would have been pretty good. Just something to like pressure the flanks, like Frost Hounds, or give him some battlefield control. And he doesn't have to commit, but it at least keeps me honest, which I think isn't bad. But I'd have to go look at my Norska vs. Tomb Kings guide. But I think it uses Ymir with Great Weapons mostly. Throg is the ideal pick, though. So I think my opponent had a really good pick there. So that was the first game. It was a little bit quick. So this is going to be a 2-for-1. So it's going to be a good time. We have another fun replay that was very quick, but I thought it was illustrating a relatively good point in regards to the matchup that has taken place. So thanks again for watching, guys, and we're going to jump over to Game 2. All right, guys, and now we are back with Game 2, which is going to be a showdown between the Warriors of Chaos, led by the KFC Lord, and the Wood Elves, who are going to be led by a Glady, and I do think she's going to be, I think she's actually on a Forest Dragon, so definitely going to be a little bit scary. So as far as the armies go, this is definitely a pretty solid anti-Wood Elf army. There are a couple experiments in here, for example, the Exalted Hero. So the Exalted Hero is actually going to be up on his Manticore. And I kind of figured, like, you know what? My opponent's probably not going to expect this. Yes, he is a little bit susceptible to missile fire. But again, he still is a potent threat. He causes fear and terror. And if they have, like, a Glady on an Eagle or something, I can kind of just chase her with the Exalted Hero and put pressure. So that was kind of my school of thought. But regardless, we'll have to see how it goes. In the front line, we got the Chaos Warriors with the silver shields. We have also the Mirror Guard. So yeah, pretty much just an entire front line of shielded infantry, which I think is pretty extremely important. Basically, you want to give the Wood Elves as few or as little, I can't, my brain's just fried. Don't want to give them that many good targets. So you want to have as many units as you can that are really tough to take down. As such, the Chaos Warriors, as well as the Mirror Guard, and all these guys, I think, are going to be a pretty good choice. In the back, we do have Chaos Knights with Lances, who are going to be teamed up with some Hounds. I also have another group of Hounds on the far side to pressure missile units, but Chaos Knights are really good in this matchup. I like to bring at least one group. The issue being is that they can get caught with like Prey of Anathrama and focus down, but again, your opponent has to spend a lot of resources to kill them. And on top of that, these guys absolutely dumpster Wild Riders. So you can have complete dominance over one aspect of the battlefield, ride down those Wild Riders, or at least use them defensively to keep your units from being charged. And yeah, I think they're just a clutch unit. One group of Forsaken to get up and around the back. We're going to kind of run them through the forest and use them as a flanking unit. They can get picked apart if you send them right up the pipe. So I like to use Chaos Warriors on the front line because honestly, Chaos Warriors will just beat the brakes off Eternal Guard, War Dancers, pretty much everything in the front line for Wood Elves. And yeah, they're just really solid. One group of Halberds here in the back. So I think it's good to bring like one group of Halberds or even like a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth against Wood Elves. That might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes they'll come in with like a surprise Durthu or a Tree Man or something like that. You're really going to regret it if you don't bring something. So I think just one is good. On top of that, we have a couple of groups of the Marauder Horsemasters. Now, this might seem like a strange pick as well, but anytime there's flying units, like if I didn't have these Horsemasters, my opponent could just fly over me. He could shoot me. He could get breath attacks for free. But now he's going to have to pay the price, or at least, as I always say, and I guess there's a Turin drinking game going around now, but these guys are going to keep my opponent honest. So we're going to be doing that, hopefully trying to poke this guy down. And some more Hounds, and yeah, that's pretty much it for my army. We do have the Warp Chicken. He's by far the best pick in this matchup. We have the Final Transmutation, so we're going to be trying to take out those annoying Wood Elf heroes. And yeah, he has massive missile resist of 60% and 25% magic resist, which is pretty gangster. For my opponent's army, he does have the Glade Lord. He's got some Wild Riders with shields here. Over here, he has the same thing, Sisters of Thorn and Wild Riders. He's got two groups of the Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts. He's got a Pigeon with some healing. So he's got the Earthblood and Regrowth. Front line's going to be Eternal Guard, which are pretty good. They have armor piercing. And then looks like Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts. So a ton of armor piercing. Definitely going to be pretty scary with the Prey of Anathrama. But guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now, just going to be advancing forward. I couldn't really see what was going on in the forest. These guys are all still hidden, so I was pushing up and through here, but it's certainly going to be a good ambush for my opponent. He has a lot of numbers here and arrows, and look at the damage. Those Marauder Horsemasters get in a ton of work on the Glade Lord right there, able to poke him down. So normally, he could just sit and get a breath attack, all that kind of good stuff, but since I did bring these missiles. But yeah, I had to be very careful because he does have a massive firing line, so I had to pull back, and thankfully I was able to pull back and micro that correctly, so I didn't take any damage really. But the Chaos Knights Lances are parking here with the Chaos Hounds, and I think, see his forces here. No, they're actually still hidden, so I didn't see them. You can see I'm like pathing past him. On the far side, my opponent got a really good ambush. He had these guys hiding in the trees. I came around with my Chaos Warhounds with poison, and he was able to just run me over. Those Wild Riders just giving me the business, which was not fun. But anyways, that's part of the game. Playing Wood Elves, you have to discover all their tricksy traps and stuff like that. So realizing I was taking massive fire from the Glade Lords, I run into the forest, trying to get the Shroud of the Trees, but the Cav are coming in. So here I was like, what? I don't want my Chaos Knights taking the brunt of the charge, so this might have been a mistake, but I decided to charge in my Warhounds and just let them take the brunt of the charge because I know the Chaos Knights can turn around and do some work once they're free. Nonetheless, the Forsaken are sweeping through the forest. You can see they're going to be sprinting in. And that's what's kind of cool about them, is like the Forsaken can now lend aid to these Chaos Knights who are free, and hopefully we can collapse right here. The Warriors are advancing. The Chaos Warriors looks like there's going to be some foul witchcraft going down. I can't remember what that spell was, but anyways, my Marauder Horsemaster is just sitting and poking the Glade Lord. I do get an overcasted Final Transmutation, doing massive damage. Now the Chaos Warriors are in the front line, and this is going to be a very good engagement. The Warp Chicken also going to be piling in, and he is so good against Wood Elves. He just gets in there and disrupts that entire missile line with his Pimp Cane. Definitely very happy about that. And the Chaos Warriors, standard die, doing a pretty good job. I should win the front line engagement hands down. Like, the Chaos Warriors just have a huge advantage here. This flank engagement went pretty horribly for me, but look at this. The Chaos Exalted Hero on the Manticore, like I said, I kind of hit him over here in the wings, and when the opportunity was right, I just strike, and my opponent's missile units are so mucked up by the Warp Chicken, he's having problems with them. And now this Exalted Hero can really just lay a whooping on this Glade Lord with the support of the Marauder Horsemasters. Over here I get a pretty good fight. He does use Earthblood and Shield of Thorns to make his guys pretty sturdy, but again, Forsaken and Chaos Knights should have no problem taking on this blob, or at least they'll be able to put a dent in it. But I still am taking Overwatch Fire, which is tough. Warp Chicken still disrupting the back line, but it's only a matter of time before I get through. You can see my opponent's front line. The Eternal Guard are buckling. These ones are buckling. Over here, it's going to be a pretty quick showdown. And these Mirror Guard just massacred these guys, taking almost no damage. And now his whole back line's pretty compromised. All of his missiles are just going to get cut down. I do chase off his Lord, you can see, with the Exalted Hero. And now I'm going to turn. And this is pretty much a free kill. So you can see there's only 7 or 8 seconds left. My opponent does end up leaving the game. But I just wanted to show you guys I mean, this game is pretty much 100% over at this point, but the Exalted Hero would have been able to kill that. The frontline engagement was going very well with the Chaos Warriors, and the Knights and the Forsaken did very well in the flanks. But man, Warp Chicken is just a beast. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you. I know that was a quick one, relatively, I mean, extremely one-sided, obviously, but I think he could have kept fighting, honestly. And it maybe he would have had a chance to come back, but you know, catching his Lord like that early was really, really huge. But nonetheless, I do think that's a pretty good build. I did like the Exalted Hero. I thought that he was a pretty neat little pick there. He was able to put pressure. He's somewhat durable, causes fear and terror. Like he can assist in the Wild Rider fight. He can help out with the Sisters of Thorn. It just gives you some mobility, which you often lack in this matchup. However, if you're going to use him, you need to be very careful not to get caught with the Prey of Anathrama. So you need to be more patient with his deployment and then pull him in. Horse Masters were solid. All that stuff was solid. Yeah, no complaints. For my opponent's army, Eternal Guard definitely, I mean, they have AP at least, but they still get massacred in the front line. He had a ton of missile pressure, but I think his back line got compromised a little bit. Maybe spreading out a little bit more and like forcing me to overextend or having like a multi-pronged engagement would have been good, but he had some really good initial catches. Like his Wild Riders ambushing my Hounds, and over in the forest, he did pretty good against my Chaos Knights, focusing them down. So honestly, it was a really good start for him. I definitely would have liked to have played that game out to its full potential. So anyways, very well played to my opponent, Brennis. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this 2-for-1, and we will see you guys next time.